Hey man, what's going on? It's Cool Water man from Ballroom Chats here briefly to talk and piggyback about the Bill Maher situation using the racial term he was a house nigga. Also about the Bill Maher versus Ice Cube commentary. Also about Umar Johnson unapologetically African Prince of Pan-Africanism speaking about Bill Maher and Ice Cube as it relates to the use of the term house nigga. So I'm watching the video with Umar as we speak. And from a psychological standpoint, from a psychotherapist standpoint, he makes good references to, Bill Maher possibly being Irish, possibly being Jewish, one of the two. He can be an Irish Jew, which, that is the case. The historical origin of the Irish, who, when you look up the history and understand some of the things that they did, for example, with the Chinese and the Chinese Exclusion Act, the extreme terrorism, racism, and overall genetic annihilation of African Americans on this continent through the KKK and various other means, you get a clear understanding of the person that Bill Maher could possibly be. So now when you study the psyche and you go into the conscious and the subconscious mind, which is something Umar made reference to, deep-rooted racial hatred, deep-rooted inverted thoughts, behaviors lie deep in the subconscious mind. So Bill Maher, yes, he may have always wanted to say the word nigga, and I'm a nigga, you a nigga, we a nigga, however he wanted to put it, he put it out there. And no real checks and balances was put into place. But again, I hear Umar on a tangent, he going off about certain things as it relates to Bill Maher saying that. The reality of it is we don't have no industries and no strength and no power to combat the nonsense that goes on when white folks decide to do the shit they do. So even though we hear and I listen to, what Umar's saying, you can hear other people speak of the same dialect, rhetoric, whatever. It doesn't have an impact or really any real concern on a national scale because we've been neutralized and put in a box many, many, many moons ago. We are mentally defunct. And it ain't nothing you can do about it because nobody has sprung up that has been able to skeet through the cracks and arrive at a place where you can start to see him or her rise and bring his people with him. In which case, nobody has shown any such fortitude. Umar is a young cat like myself who has several degrees in the educational realm. I have a degree in the educational realm. I'm a product of the hip hop culture. I am a hip hop rap artist, gangster rapper, whatever you want to call him, who verbally can dialect, debate, and dialogue with you about specific topics that relate to hip hop. So people saying, Bill Maher, he shouldn't, be this, it should be that. What you have to understand is Bill Maher gonna be able to say it time and time again. The same way that other radio hosts said something about the nappy-headed black girls, he got off. Wasn't no real issues. Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson, they threw a little fit, but gonna make no difference, man. The same way that what's his name on the TV show? Damn, you know who I'm talking about too. He been on the trail about the sexual harassment. He just resigned with Fox. It doesn't matter how you feel, because you're not in a position to correct the behavior because you have no power. So I hear everything Ice Cube saying. Umar saying, because he's making references to Ice Cube at this point. I understand all of what his frustration is, but again, just same way you can't pop off of school immediately overnight because you don't have no institutions behind you that will back you and fund you. It's the same way that we as Black Americans and society as a whole don't have enough power and pull and enough resources and enough institutions to check Bill Maher about the racial slur that he used out of his mouth, calling himself a house nigga. It doesn't have it's like water off a seal's back. So what the fuck what? Who cares? He said it. They been saying it. And ain't nobody gonna continue to throw no uproar because we are damn near brain dead and mentally dysfunctional. Without institutions, checks and balances, power and control over resources, over tools, over necessary add-ons and adjustments, we'll continue to get called names and it continue to get rolled down the hill like toilet paper because we don't have the power. So now, this brother talking about Ice Cube. I mean, he on Ice Cube, and that's interesting. The same thing that he mentioned, that Umar mentioned this, and we all know this. When you understand the system and the game that's being played, you understand. If Bill Maher would have said something about the Jews, Bill Maher Show would have got canceled. He would have been reprimanded. The same way the comedian that mess around and said something about the Jews, a black dude. Man, I'm all off tonight on my names too. He got reprimanded. They got their system set up where they can checks and balances and control who's in the system. Outside of the system, there's checks and balances because now you dealing with, not only you dealing with an Irish, you're dealing with a Jew, you're dealing with an Asian, you're dealing with Italians, Germans, Cubans. All these folks work collectively to keep the system in balance and in check. So African Americans, or whatever you want to call us, black, whatever, we in the system bouncing off the wall like a ping pong because we don't have no checks and balances, so we can't throw a fit. So now, sliding over to when Bill Maher brought on Ice Cube about the situation, and Cube said, man, it ain't cool. What gave you the authority to think that you could say that? White people, you all have the authority to think that because y'all cool with us, y'all got the right to say it. You don't. It's a difference between me saying my nigga to my homeboy and a white dude saying, what's up, nigga, to me. The venom is still there, it stings. And this is Ice Cube quoting, as I quoted. That was Ice Cube's statement. And after the little debate is so called and so forth, Q gave him the pass. Man, I forgive you. I like your show. I like you as a person, but I don't think you should have been using that word. Now, Umar Holland, he shouldn't have got no pass. He shouldn't have got no pass on that, because if it was a Jew, if it was a Jewish situation, somebody African said it, they would have got fired. Yup, that's the case. But again, you in a system. The music industry, the entertainment industry is a system that's designed to make sure he can keep things in check. You can't go in on Bill Maher like that. He working with a bunch of white boys, and most of them Jews. He can't go in like that. He can't check Bill Maher like he want to check him and really put his foot on his neck. He got to be docile and cordial about it so that he can keep, the pressure off him. He ain't 22 no more and can take that heat. He got a family and a wife. He can't put his wife through that stress no more. Them days is over. They just live a comfortable life now. She just go to the bank, So he can't get in and go in on that and really say what he want to say because he's in the system. And the system he in, he don't have no power. He got a little clout. He producer, director. You know what I'm saying? Executive on certain project. But he ain't that guy that can throw a temper tantrum and the world is gonna move. He don't have enough. As they say, a nation of millions to hold me back. He ain't got a nation of millions behind him that will allow him to make the necessary adjustments to get Bill Maher checked. Can't do it. So you got to be docile and you got to be wise when you speak, how you speak. You just, you got to be wise about what you're saying. You know what I'm saying? So to hear, I hear Umar, he talking, he riffing, you know what I'm saying? About the situation, man, and how he shouldn't have let him, you know what I'm saying, off the hook. At the end of the day, he can't go in on the man like he want to. So you independent. You out here independent, bruh. And as a result of you being independent, you know what I'm saying? You can spit your spiel and it's cool. But you wouldn't be able to do that and spit your spiel the same way you would if you was inside the system and them folks was paying you. The same way you left the school system, Umar, is the same way. You know what I'm saying? When you knew you wasn't going to be able to speak your piece, you had to leave. It's the same way you had to take into account that these brothers can't just out here do what they want to do the way they want to do it. Because at the end of the day, it's checks and balances inside the system. And if you don't fall in line, your ass gets checked. Period, point blank. Period, point blank. You know what I'm saying? And I think it's a need for an overall refocus and redistribution of the word when it's used in the context that's being deemed necessary. I guess you could say being used negatively. I've used the word. Hell, I still use the word. When you really get off into it, most people don't even know where the damn word come from. This is the type of, BS is going on. You don't know about the etymology of the word nigga. You don't even know where it comes from. You don't know the scientific word of the word. He might not even know. Umar might not even know. The cast is riffing don't know. You see? But at the end of the day, all of that is cool, man. But people fail to look at the underlining picture. The money rules everything, as Wu-Tang say, cash rules everything around me. Cream, get the money, the dollar bill, y'all. It's the dollars that control what the nature of the outcome is gonna be, and that has to be determined. So like Umar making reference to, NWA is partly responsible for Bill Maher feeling like they could say that. I would say probably not. You would have to go back farther than that. You would have to go back to the comedians like Richard Pryor and Dick Gregory and and all these other dudes out here. Damn, my mind drawing so many blanks tonight. All these dudes out here, man, that started it off. The Mac, the movies from the 60s and the 70s, man. All of that stuff, you know what I'm saying, was where that catalyst really came from. Is where the catalyst really came from. Okay, Bill O'Reilly, that's who I wanted to speak on say something about. Bill O'Reilly is a dude who consistently uses undercutting derogatory terms that reference black people. But just like I was reading, and I'm switching gears for about 20 seconds. He grew up in a sundown town, Levitt, I think it was Levitt, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, one of them. But it was a sundown town. Black folks couldn't be in that town after, at a certain time. If he acted out and said something against the Jews, his show would have been canceled. Period. Because they got a system of checks and balances. Stacey Morgan, that comedian, the comedian Stacey, that's who I was trying to reference earlier. Stacey Morgan, he said something about the Jews. He got in trouble. He went through some pain. Why is it that these dudes, this culture can chastise you, demonize you? Hell, Ice Cube went through a bunch of nonsense for going up against the Jewish culture back in the 90s. He got ridiculed and talked bad on, basically mainly because of Jerry Heller, stealing his money. But what's up with the system? So that's why I'm saying with Umar, it sounds good, but these dudes can't speak on it because they checks will get cut by the folks that control the system. So you got to tiptoe around it. You got to be docile. You can't go in there with this unapologetically African attitude and expect to still survive. It's not going to happen. You're going to be outside. You're going to be hungry. Your pockets are going to be weak. They're going to cut their money off. The same way they did Cat Williams when he was running around hollering about the Illuminati. They cut them checks. Them checks couldn't get cash. Eventually he had to tighten up. He had to keep his mouth shut. He had to play a game and think about them kids he got to feed. And just come out the whole nonsense. And like he said, I got more respect for it now, but I still ain't getting down with the team. Same point blank. So, do I think Bill Maher was justified in using the N-word, or he was right, had the authority? No. He not part of the culture. That's why he can't get away with it. You know what I'm saying? That's just like old boy Mexican called the black lady a bitch. Okay, he slightly can get away with it because he part of the culture. Blacks and Mexicans, hand in hand. You know what I'm saying? So he could partly get away with it. We didn't really jump bad on him. But we really don't jump bad on nobody because this is how we've been trained. We don't have a social, a financial, economic, spiritual culture all locked up and rolled into one that puts the checks and balances on us and the code of conduct and behavior to how we deal with each other. We don't have that. So what you think we're gonna do with the white boy? We ain't finna do nothing because the white boy is the daddy. He been the one disciplining us since we've been able to remember. So, I hear Umar, I hear him griping and, he going off on Cube, not necessarily going off, respectfully going off on Cube. Y'all partly responsible. I know because of the N-word, y'all made the N-word normal. And, white folk felt like they had the right to use it because, most of the records that was being sold to white males. according to Brian Turner, CEO and executive for Priority Records. So, I get that part where he feel like, that the word was partly responsible for, because NWA used it as a revolutionary term, but it also was a negative term that pushed that word out there. So white folk got comfortable. I did hear Umar mention the Dr. Dre should get reparations, you know what I'm saying, to black folks for the use of the N word, which, that's a bunch of BS right there. You know what I'm saying? Like, ain't none of that happening. Ain't none of that happening, man. That's involuntary. That's voluntary. I grew up listening to all them dudes. I went and bought them records on my own. Did nobody make me do it? Yeah, the programming was there. I'm sure, we could argue the programming, but as a result, I was the one that got a hold of them records. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't hold that brother to that regard. He got to reparate everybody for, the N word. Because again, you got to go back. Way back with Richard Pryor, way back with Paul Mooney. That's the other dude. With his use of the words and the skits he wrote. Sanford the Son, not Sanford the Son, but Red Fox. He was cussing them out too. So this ain't nothing new. You see, this ain't nothing new. Like the brother was talking about, Umar was talking about, and I'm really I was gonna do a Bill Maher thing anyway, and I was gonna reference and put some of the Cube information. But when I heard Umar, I mean, he just so fired up. I'm like, well, man, let me have my rebuttal towards small portion of what he said. Now, I know he mentioned comments about the sisters, the dudes with the videos not having no dark skinned sisters in the videos, and why they not doing that. Yeah, some of these brothers can actually choose to do that. They can put some dark skin versus the light skin versus the white girl. But again, the system got you choosing what you've been trained to choose. And on top of that, the folks that's behind the cameras, they not necessarily going to be in favor of it. So you're going to have that issue as well. So, we're talking about a struggle, man, between white power and black inferiority. It is what it is. It is what it, I mean, it ain't no different than, what I'm saying, the brother Umar want to put the school up, but you got to go through channels. You got to go to somebody bank that ain't yours, predominantly white owned, more than likely white owned. You got to go through somebody's channel, real estate wise, to get land that predominantly not going to be owned by nobody black. The holding company for the real estate agency is going to probably be some white folk. So it just has to be rectified, man, and understood that this is a system, man, and it's called white supremacy or whatever you want to call it. And the brothers and sisters is that there's brown, copper colored people in America are or have to fall in line with the rules and regulations that have been set up for us so that we don't get out of line. And if we get out of line, we get dealt with. And that's one of the reasons Q ain't go in like he probably wanted to. That's one of the reasons a lot of these dudes in here ain't choosing, certain women to be in the video. You know what I mean? That's one of the reasons why, most of these dudes out here, they marry white. Or they marry light because we programmed, we see white, we see light, we think that's the better choice. Dark-skinned women ain't glorified. They not as attractive in most regards because of what we've been programmed. So it's just one of them things, man. And I think that you have to look at the bigger picture. You know what I'm saying? Bill Maher, it ain't going to be the last time he say the word nigga. He could care less. Like, he ain't studying that BS y'all talking. He get him in a closed door. He going to say it again. You just got to understand this is a game, man, and this is what the game is entailing. And if you folks out here that's still crying and hollering, oh, racism this, you're going to continue to cry and holler racism this and that when you should be looking at this thing like a scientist. So I'm going to get off of here. I made a couple of comments. I think they cool. We'll get back. Maybe in another later date. But I was going to do something in regards to this anyway. So, should Bill Maher, and I guess we'll call the topic, should Bill Maher be allowed to use the N-word? That's a yes or no topic. No, He's not, in my opinion. He ain't of the culture. He not cool like that with the culture. Ain't no white boy really that cool where we just like, yeah, we taking it, bruh. Yeah, call me all the niggas you want. You know what I'm saying? I do think Umar, you know what I'm saying, is probably reaching, to a degree beyond where he probably should reach because, like, again, you got to look at the totality of the system and understand the complexities that, folks are in, which may cause them to be the way they are. So I'm out, man. It's cool water. Check me out at the blog is Hip Hop Dead. Look for me at thedigitaldopeman.com and look for the lecture Who Killed the Black Entrepreneur. Peace and stay blessed. Holla.